Understanding why lesbian bars keep disappearing. On a recent episode of Fat Guy, Jacked Guy, Stef Rubino brought attention to the gradual disappearance of lesbian bars here in the United States. Rubino shared her personal experience with gay bars throughout her life. As per the article on Autostraddle, quote, many lesbian bars throughout the 20th century served as places for women to gather to do community organizing work, to take care of each other, to get health care, and to just generally help out the communities where the bars were located, end quote. It's widely accepted that the first lesbian bar to open in the U.S. was Mona's 440 Club in San Francisco, California in 1936. While it's certainly true that Mona's broke barriers and influenced the opening of bars like it across the U.S., calling it the first lesbian bar is actually somewhat historically inaccurate, because the Prohibition of the 1920s drove all bars to go underground. There's a lot of queer bar history that wasn't either well documented or is just not very well known. The first documented bar-like hangout for lesbians, Eve's Hangout, was opened in Greenwich Village, in the Greenwich Village neighborhood of New York City. Throughout the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, more lesbian bars opened in big cities and some small towns all over the U.S. By 1980, there were over 200 lesbian bars around the country. But as of 2021, the Lesbian Bar Project has recorded that there are only 24 left in the United States. And that's an absolute shame. Bar culture, as we've seen from, recent discussion after the massacre at Club Q, is so important to the LGBT community. It's a space for us to gather, to feel safe, to support one another, and all segments of our community deserve to have that safe space.
I'll tell you, I remember, and I'm not going to tell you all how old I am, but let's just say I've been around the block, okay, a few times. I remember back in the day, before the internet, club culture, there was an energy that was there. Like you were looking forward to the weekend to go get your life, because that's what we used to call it. Are you going to get your life? Because it was the place where we could get together.
I heard that phrase before.
Yeah, because it was a place you could get together and meet other like-minded and people that are like yourself. And the internet, I think, really took don't get me wrong, like the internet is great. We can talk to someone in Australia like real time. But what I'm saying is I think that that's what the internet did. It kind of took away from that whole energy of the club. Now, as far as lesbians, and you gay men, don't butcher me, but do you think it's because lesbians, they hook up and they kind of stay together? Like,
are you making a U-Haul?
That's exactly what she's doing.
Yes, the answer is yes.
It's a different community. To comment on the story and to do a little plug for a friend who's no longer with us, I was friends with Leslie Cohen, who was the owner of the Sahara in New York City. She wrote a wonderful book about her life, chronicling her bar in New York City that hosted amazing performances from Blondie to Pat Benatar, and tells the story of the lesbian bar world in New York City, The Audacity of a Kiss, if you are looking for a book for a gift for this holiday season. But I think it's interesting because even in our own community, I mean, if you look across, if you go outside of Wilton Manors, Miami Beach, gay bars are disappearing. Yeah. So it's not just lesbian bars. They started off with less bars than gay men did, and now they have less, and we have less also. And with a tax on our community, it's a risky business proposition for people to go into that business. So, but the flip side of it is it's progress, because you go out to nightclubs now, and there are LGBTQ people spread across those places and that are welcome in some cities. So I think it's a double-edged sword.
Do you feel like the need for LGBT clubs is waning or disappearing?
It's interesting because I really think that's the heart of the question.
Yeah.
There's only 20 lesbian bars left in the United States. Even with retrenchment in Miami-Dade County for gay bars, male-oriented or male of focused bars. That's not the case in Fort Lauderdale and Wilton. It's growing, it's vibrant. We have more than 20 gay male spaces in South Florida, more than 20 just here in South Florida, and there's 20 lesbian spaces in the entire nation. So it's an indication of what's really going on. If you would have asked that question in 2015, right after gay marriage, and Supreme Court and the progress and lighting up the White House in rainbow, I would have said, yeah, I can just see that we just don't need the same kind of spaces that we do. But then this little thing called Donald Trump happened, and Proud Boys happened, and January 6th happened, and now we watched Ron DeSantis happen, and Ted Cruz, and the person, and the person in Oklahoma, the state senator that has proposed legislation to ban trans health care, not for children, but all adults. There can be no trans, hey, if that legislation passes, wildly crazy, and probably will not, but they're discussing the idea that trans does not exist, and so therefore it would be illegal to provide hormone therapy to an adult. In those kind of environments that we've watched in the last 5 years, my answer would be different than it was in the first months after gay marriage, which is we need these spaces because in Colorado Springs, we've heard the story over and over and over again. They fought this very conservative philosophy in Colorado Springs, and frequently it was not a safe or a rich, embracing environment for LGBT. So Club Q was needed. Well, there's lots of places in lots of communities across the country where if we say we lose these spaces, we're okay now because we'll mix everywhere. That may not necessarily be true. May not be.
Wow. Oh my God, I'm reminiscing about my club days. Anyway.
Come back to us, Raja, because you're up next. LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.